everybody, I am here today to bring you a colorful card that looks more difficult than it is, which as you know is my favorite kind. I like projects that look like they're more complicated than they really are. So that's what we're doing today. I have pulled out some distress inks, and I don't know how you guys are. I see supplies and I think, ooh, I gotta have those, I'm gonna use those like crazy. So I have bought a bunch of distress inks. I haven't used them a whole lot. They're over in a drawer. I don't see them like I see some other things that are out here all the time. So I have challenged myself to try to use these more often. So we're going to use them today. I have Wild Honey, Cracked Pistachio, Picked Raspberry, and Mermaid Lagoon. And I have picked out some layers of cardstock that are going to pick up those colors when we get done with our card. Now the main focus of our card is a piece of 140-pound watercolor paper. Now because I'm going to stamp and emboss on here, I'm going to use the smoother side. Generally watercolor paper has one side that is more textured and one side that is smoother. And I'm going to opt to use the smoother side today because I want to get a good impression on that. Now the technique we're going to do today, I've seen, everybody's got videos out there right now, all the major card makers. It's called ink smooshing or smooshing, however you want to pronounce that. And you use a piece of acetate or plastic. This is what I've got, this Graphics Duralar acetate alternative. I bought this pad eons ago when shaker cards first became popular. Never made very many, but hey, I have a nice pad of acetate, so there you go. So we're using a small piece of the acetate, which you should be able to see here. And this is basically going to be our paintbrush, if you will. I have a couple of stamps pulled out. I found this was actually a set that was gifted to me in like one of those random acts of kindness things. And I'm going to use this Imagine stamp. And then I'm also going to, I have this Floral Flourish stamp. This is a Diane Reevely Ranger stamp. And I've pulled out this small flower and already have it on a plastic block here. I'm going to be using Versamark ink and clear stamping powder. This just happens to be the Stampin' Up brand because that's what I have. I'm also going to first use my embossing buddy on here. And this is basically just filled with, I think, probably something like cornstarch. And if you wipe it over your, whatever you're embossing on first, it will eliminate a lot of that extraneous little flecks that get picked up and embossed by accident. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So we're doing that first. So let's get our stamping and embossing first because this is pretty standard. Again, I'm using Versamark ink because it's good and juicy and it's clear. You could use a pigment ink if you wanted to. This is what I have, so this is what I use. I'll try not to get my big old head in the camera. And I'm going to push a lot harder than I normally would since I'm working on this cardstock, this watercolor paper, just to try to make extra sure that I get a good impression. Now you can't see that, but I can, and it looks like I got a pretty good print on that. So before that gets dry on me, we'll put the embossing powder on. And I'm working over a piece of folded paper just so I have a place to tap this off into and put it back in my container. Unless you do copious amounts of embossing, you're going to find the embossing powder that you have lasts a long time, especially if you do what I just did and return it to the, and make sure that I stamp off in a few places just for fun. Just for fun. That's all. Then we'll put the powder on those and then we'll emboss them. And if you've never done heat embossing before, you want to keep an eye on your powder as you emboss so that you don't over emboss and cause it to get bubbly or even to burn, I suppose. I've never gone that ridiculous overboard. But you're melting the powder is what you're doing. And you want it to give that nice, smooth effect. You know when you get like a fancy invitation in the mail for a wedding or something and you can feel the print on it? That's embossed, and so that's what we're going for. So let me get my heat gun warmed up here. Let this set just a little bit because basically you have just liquefied this powder, and so you want it to cool a little bit. Now, take my acetate sheet. And actually, no, never mind. I was going to say something that was totally wrong. Now, I'm going to take my ink pad, and as you know, distressed ink is really juicy. And I'm just going to go direct to my acetate sheet. Then I'm going to hit that with some water. Not too much because I don't want it running like crazy. And I'm going to take this and flip it and go direct to my paper. I might have gotten a little bit too much on there. A little down here. And this is going to give you the watercolor effect that's very popular, but you have just a little bit more control of it. Okay, so you can start to see some of those images being revealed. All right, I'm going to wipe my acetate off and go to my next color. And I'm going to try not to let the colors mingle too awful much. Now I'm going to go with Mermaid Lagoon. And then the same thing. I'm just going to flip this over and go direct onto my paper. And I'm not going for full coverage here. I just want just that watercolory look. And I'm going to blot up some of this extra. And I want to make sure my letters on my quote are open, an open kind of font. So I want to make sure that I'm getting some color in there. Okay, now we'll come in with the cracked pistachio, which is really pretty, light and happy green. Happy green, I sound like Bob Ross. Happy trees, let's say happy trees. All right. Get some of that on there. Again, not going for full coverage, because I definitely want that watercolor look. And I'm seeing now with the stamp that I've used that I may have to come in and do some deliberate coloring in the letters. Now, oops, and there went the lid, folks. It's alive. Now we're going to come back in with the wild honey. Brighten it up a little bit as though it's not bright enough. I've used a little too much water, it looks like. That's okay. Just some hits of yellow. Now see, I've got to be careful because I'm going to make mud. I'm not going to mean to, but I'm going to accidentally make mud. That's why I'm blotting, so that there isn't too much mud making. Okay. can see the flowers really well, but I'm having trouble with this image. May come back in with some of the pink since it's the stronger color, and I'm not going to use quite as much water. There we go, picking up those letters a little bit better. And where the embossing powder is, and this is another reason I'm blotting, the embossing powder is resisting the ink. So it just sits right on top of there. And so that's another reason that I'm blotting off. There we go, that's looking better. Okay. See how you can see that now? Now, in hindsight, be real honest with you, I'm not liking what I'm getting here. I might have wanted to have used a colored embossing powder, black, silver, and because this was such a detailed image, that might have worked better. Now, I'm going to kind of hit this a little bit and dry it. And then what I want to do is come in with some water droplets. As you know, Distress ink is water reactive, so I'm just going to put a little water in my hand and try to get some nice droplets here, which will give us another effect. And the real trick to this is you need to let this sit for a minute before you blot that color up so that it actually reacts with the ink and has time to move it and pull it. I always want to blot it too fast, and then I'm like, man, why didn't that work? Well, because I wasn't patient. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So hopefully you'll be able to see this when it pulls. I'm going to do some blotting. Yeah, that worked. See up in, especially like up in here, you can see where it pulled it up. And as it dries, it's going to be a little bit more pronounced, okay? Now, what I think I might do as this dries a little bit, I'm still not happy with, these letters are not strong enough for me. So I may come in with, I think I might be able to best match some colors here with some of my Tombow markers. So let's do that. And as always, I have color swatching on things that I work with. I think we might pick up 493, 703, find it. Maybe because where these have mixed down here, they make just a little hint of orange. We'll pick up a little orange in there as well. So let's make these letters a little more splattering. Let that sit for a minute or two. All right, let's lot. There we go. And that makes those letters look like they blend in a little bit better. Oh, wrong direction. Okay. Alrighty. Now, I'm also going to come in, I think. I may want to wait and do that. I'm going to add some stickle glitter in places, but let me do that after we get this put together. Now, I'm going to take and assemble my card if I can find it. I've got, my base is this lovely bright pink. And then I've got accents colors of the yellows and the turquoise. Oh yeah, that's going to look good. But you know, I think I kind of need a more defined edge around this. So, let's come in with a blending tool. There we go. And let's add a little edge around here, just to define that just a little tiny bit. Yeah, that's going to look good. Well, I think so anyway. Y'all might not. But I always kind of like to have the edge of whatever I'm working on a little defined, sort of to frame it. Okay, that's good. It gives it a little depth. Add a little bit more along the top here. Okay, yeah, that's better. I like it. I like it, like it. What did I do with my baby wipe? Much better, okay? Like that around the edge. Now, over here, where I went over the embossed image, I want to get that ink off of there. Okay, so let's assemble the card. Easy peasy, just a bunch of ways. Since this has had water applied to it and has a lot of texture, I believe I will attach this with some foam tape. Just going to a little strip down each edge here. And that should be plenty. Might put one little piece in the middle. Okay. Peel those backers off. And you'll notice when I put cards together, I always check where the opening is. There's a reason for that. I have put too many cards together the wrong way, and then they didn't open right. Eyeball this on here. There we go. I like this. It's the letters are still a little hard to see, but that's just because of the stamp that I used. I'm loving this tie-dye kind of look. Let's go silver. I just want to add a few spots of glitter in the centers of the flowers. Even though they're really a background element, you know, I gotta have bling somewhere, y'all. Yeah, let's put a little bit here, where the eyes are dotted. Give those some emphasis. And then when that dries, then on the inside, I always, especially because we're working with a colored card base, and I should have done this before we stickled, dang it, I always like to put a white panel on the inside, so it makes it easier for people to write on. or stamp on, whatever you're going to do with the My tendency is to want to put more ink on there, but I'm going to stop while I can. Get that off so I don't migrate that ink anywhere. And that gives just a little bit of interest to the inside of the card. And it gives a white panel for writing or stamping. Nice and easy. So there you have it, a little different technique with the distress inks that gives you a nice watercolor look, but you can control it just a little bit more. And because we use the distress inks, we also, not distress inks, we can get the little speckledy watermark looks, which you could continue to do that and build that look if you wanted to. And you have a nice, colorful, pretty darn easy card. Just you learn from my mistakes and think about the image that you're stamping. This one didn't work out real well, but that's okay. I may do more something to it. You never know. But there you have it, a colorful kind of watercolor tie-dye looking card without a lot of work. So I hope you enjoyed that. Like and subscribe if you will. And I hope that you have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.